Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track by an act named Izanah Jones, titled Outta Here. And if we switch over to here, we have the track on YouTube. We are going to be listening through this track from start to finish. Of course, this is off of the A Reggae Heart album. Can listen through it from start to finish. We're going to hear what we think. Let's go. What do we have? Fantastic percussion to start that us off with. Some sort of like nice jangly synths. Oh, some off-beat rhythms. Characteristic of that kind of reggae dub vibe.
The breeze blows my curtains. I look around to see who's there.
There's a nice freshness to the overall vibe of
I'm
it.
not seeing anyone. Guess there's no one here.
Oh, we got some phenomenal backing vocals as well. Nice contrast in the tones between the main and the sides.
The breeze blows harder. I turn around for someone there.
Oh, fantastic use of woodwinds there. Excellent choice.
Faces. No one's sharing who they are.
And a lift. Okay, we're going to a bridge period. That's cool.
Why do so many hide between their walls? Although the wind finds their secrets, when will they know who they are?
When will they know who they are is an interesting line, and although there is a nice sort of calm harmony going on all beside this alongside the constant percussion, there is also a sense of trepidation with those, or complication with those extensions, you know. It does show a little bit more depth there musically.
I gotta get out, get up on out of here. I gotta get on up, get up and out of
Oh,
here.
good choice, nice catchy hook.
Gotta get up,
Got a repetition of that.
get up on out of here. I gotta get on up, get up on out of here.
I think we're resolving on that seventh as well, which sort of makes us sort of feel as if we haven't quite managed to escape yet, you know? We're surrounded by people who aren't real, and it's kind of messing with us a little bit. To kind of replicate sadness of that ending motif there.
The breeze blows my curtains. I turn around to see who's there. I'm not seeing anyone, only shadows out there. The breeze blows harder. It comes knocking on my door. I open up to find an answer. There's no one. Once more, they rest in empty, hollow silence.
It's an interesting tone to the vocals there. I'm not quite sure what we're doing there. I don't necessarily mind it. It fits in well with everything else.
Hardly giving back, always wanting more and more. Out of touch with the ebb and flow of life, just like ghosts about to fall.
Ghost about to fall. Nice cooler response there between the Izanah and the backing vocalists there. It's great. I like this. I like that there's a set verse, bridge, and chorus section there. You get the you can follow along to the story really easily.
I gotta get out, get up on out of here. I gotta get on up, get up and out of here. I gotta get up, I gotta get out, get up on out of here. I gotta get on up, get up and out of here.
It's nice just to have a solo section on the guitar to sort of bound us out. Great fresh voicing to it, following those major and minor modal shapes. A little bit of blues there.
I gotta get up.
Oh, okay, we're back to the refrain. That's cool. I think the brass in the background is triumphant and it signals that we are eventually going to escape.
Get on up, get up and out of here. I gotta get up, get
Oh, we've got the fade out. Classy finish.
lonely night. I gotta get up, get out.
No, good choice there from Izanah Jones with Outta Here. You know, I do like the quality of the production, and there's things to appreciate here. Because this is my conclusion in my review of this track by Izanah Jones titled Outta Here. What I think this track is about? I think track is about someone who is realizing that they are surrounded by people who are not necessarily true and authentic to themselves. And it's kind of depressing and sort of like, it's affecting them negatively. So I think Izanah Jones is basically discussing sort of getting away from that place with those people and finding somewhere where things are a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more sort of sincere and genuine, and where she can be around people like herself who are a little bit more sort of open and honest. Talking about the shadows there, which are kind of like they're there during the day, but in the darkness they disappear, you know. So we're trying to find the real people, you know. So I think that's what the track is about. I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. The actual, you know, the way it was sung by Izanah was good, you know. We had a fairly straightforward vocal performance here. There was like not a lot of ornamentation or anything like that, but I think we told the story as well as we needed to kind of get the point across. We had some interesting decisions with the vocal melodies themselves. I think they harmonized well with the rest of the elements of the arrangement. You know, she was comfortable in her head and chest voice, and I think the way that she had textured and colored her vocals contrasted, but also coupled nicely with the backing elements there, which were nice and bright and sort of filtered on top of the rest as a kind of a supportive sort of feature there. So that was great. You know, that was a good choice. Yep, I like the sound staging of those vocals, especially when the backing vocals came in the side. I didn't mind Izanah being in the center there, and I think it sounded nice and full on the chorus where everybody came in for those unison notes and those hook lines. The structure of the track had that traditional sort of verse bridge chorus there with a solo section just before the end of it, before the outro chorus, and I think it was a great choice to have different chord progressions and bass lines for each of these parts to sort of help them remain sort of more distinct. I think we elevated with those brasses and everything coming in like in those hook sections. We had little sort of flurries of sort of synth or key or woodwind parts in the verses, just in the spaces, you know, not to allow too much sort of dead room there, you know. It was nice to have those points of interest come in and out and sort of keep us entertained throughout the track, even if it wasn't overly intense. Even though there was a sense of urgency to the vocal performance there, we sounded tired of it, and that we wanted to leave, but it also wasn't aggressive or overwhelming or anything like that. I think the rest of the instruments in the mix, and whether it was the eighth note groove on the drums, or the bass line, that was kind of nice and sort of like subtle there on the low end, or the key or the sort of woodwindy kind of flurried ornamental bits that sort of sprinkled over the top of those extensions and those harmonies there. I think they were all great. You know, I don't really have any massive complaints about it. I understand from a musical perspective, from a compositional perspective, why we had things balanced like they were. I think from an instrumental performance perspective, especially that lead guitar at the end, but also just the rest of the elements of the mix, I think they were recorded. They were recorded by musicians playing those instruments, which may sound weird, but you don't always get people playing the instruments in music nowadays. Often you'll get people using sampling, or like they'll just key in the notes. So it was nice to have those sort of acoustic snare tones and the little sort of pitter-patters of the hand drums and everything like that at the beginning, and again people playing those brass and woodwind bits and everything as we go between in the keys and all the other sort of fun compositional elements here. You know, there's a lot going on in the arrangement, but it was balanced out well, not just from a production perspective but also from an arrangement perspective. And I think that it was palatable enough that a wide amount of people who are familiar with lots of different genres will still be able to enjoy it, but also fans of like reggae and dub and stuff like that will feel right at home. And then finally, from a production, recording, mixing and mastering perspective, I'm happy with the effort that was put in on behalf of the studio engineers and everything like that. I think the only thing I'd say is I'm wondering if Izanah Jones recorded through the same microphone as the other musicians in the studio, as there was a different tone to the vocals of the backing versus Izanah's. You know, I think they did well for what they had. I'm just wondering if it was the same mic, because if it wasn't for like future recordings, it'd be good if they used the same microphone. But I'm sure they know that, because the quality of the studio production is in general fantastic. You know, there's a great clarity to the brass piano, the keys, the woodwinds, the drums, the bass, and all that. I really enjoyed my time listening to it. It was very pleasant to listen to. And the backing vocals as well. Everything was notched nicely in the frequency spectrum. There were no sort of holes there. I wasn't left wanting sort of more sort of like niching or amalgamation of the various elements. They had their own slot in the frequency spectrum, and that was nice and wide in the stereo field. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of compression or sort of shoving down of elements. The leveling was nice and conservative. It didn't feel like we struggled to put everything together despite the relative complexity of the arrangement there. And I think at just under 4 minutes, they made great use of the real estate that they had there, especially putting that solo in there between the two hooks. I think having that last hook is like a fade out one was a smart move, just because I feel like at the last point we had that last hook, we'd had enough to kind of keep us satiated of that main concept. We understood the point of the song so that was great. Limiting compression was fine, you know, like it was nice and loud without pumping. Overall, this is a great first impression to Izanah Jones' work with Outta Here, because this is effectively my review of this track. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go check out Izanah Jones' various social medias and you know, their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.